Hi, I love an intro. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the long-awaited... Oh wait, I got it backwards again. There we go, the correct way this is supposed to face. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back with a far too loud Honkai Star Rail Spacewalk theme in the background. Easily my favorite Star Rail track next to some of the boss themes, but love this one nonetheless. That doesn't count as an intro, but ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the highly anticipated HSR TTRPG. A lot of people loved this in the last one. I checked out the comments. A lot of people had a lot of things to say. A lot of the comments just blatantly disregarded anything I said in the first 2 minutes and just fired off their own shit. And that video is like the second highest pull-in of Discord members that we ever had. The first being the Discord's founding, which brought a bunch of members in. And the next biggest one was the TTRPG video, because it brought in like a dozen of you guys. So thank you for joining. If some of you are still in there, thanks for sticking around. Some of you are thinking of joining, might as well join and lurk for a bit. Don't worry, this stuff is on the way. It's a slow process. A lot of my regulars and the people who've been here for a while already know, but I am a grown, functioning, half nerdy, half normie adult. I do have a full-time job. I do sleep about 7 hours. So, and I work out and I go out with friends. I drink on the weekends. I have a lot on my plate on top of YouTube. So I don't get to a lot of these things, but when I do, it is very fun. I enjoy it quite a bit. But that's all besides the point. Let's get into what you're here for. TTRPGs. So I think the first thing I need to establish is I have been calling it the Star Rail D&D, but this is not utilizing the actual Star Rail, and it is not utilizing actual D&D. It is, but only for inspiration. What we're going to end up making together won't be Star Rail, and it won't be D&D. It is going to be something wholly random and unique. Just for fun. I don't have a script. I have no script. This is all off the cuff. This is purely for funsies. This is just raw notes. If you came here for genuine game dev, construction, product professionalism, you messed up, son. Daughter. You messed up, daughter. That quote doesn't work the other way around. Anyways, last time we spoke, we had the what is it, and the key features. Now, as you can tell, we actually changed up a few key features, and it's been a while since I've had to do this, so I had to pull it up on my other monitor to make sure I was doing this right. But basically what I added in for the TTRPG stuff was a sort of skill and attribute-based mechanic, the dice math, right? You know, if you have +4 strength, you have +4 athletics, and then there's different translations based on the game you're playing. Savage Worlds, instead of like a dice bonus, it's like a whole dice, you know? It's like your athletics is a D8 instead of a +3 or some shit. Over at Star Rail over here, somebody brought up a very good point, and that was, Lamau, no pun intended, skill points. And then I included the sort of standard RPG stat attribute progression just to kind of simulate that. Because Star Rail does have that. As you upgrade your character, your stats go up. And it's completely out of your control. The only thing that lets you control it is equipment, light cones, things like that, adjusted on the side. Will our game work like that? Who the fuck knows? I have no idea. But pulling from the features of these, we came together to these similar shared features, which we have basic building block stuff, which, another reminder of people, kind of some rules I'm going by with this is all very basic general stuff we're doing. There is no detail work. We're not going deep into anything. The second thing is there's not going to be any rules pertaining to story or socializing. This is purely gameplay stuff. Let the DM make the story, let the players socialize. There will be no rules for it in here. So do not send me comments like loads of people wanted to do about how they wanted to be a lore master for the game if I had any lore questions, or they wanted to create classes and mechanics based on in-game factions, which is story and socializing. And I was like, oh God. And I ended up having to skip most people's comments and just trying to nitpick the things I liked and then pulled from that. But regardless, we have, with the shared features, customization. That's going to be the big thing. Customization for your character in TTRPGs is the whole point, almost, of playing. Everyone loves making their own character and running around in it. Star Rail, you can customize your character, but albeit you're limited to your standard RPG style of just leveling up, and equipment. The other thing we've determined is classes and paths. Do we do something with that? Do we not do something with that? Do we create like a point system akin to Skyrim where you lock into a path? Unlike Skyrim where you can go everywhere. Or, because you couldn't do anything just like Skyrim or Path of Exile where you could run everywhere, you would need to lock into your path. So it would be more of like you choose a path during character creation and that's where you go. Equipment, very easy here, just relics and light cones. D&D doesn't have anything like light cones, so that's going to be something different, probably. It's going to be very weird. Combat system, very normal. If you've played a TTRPG or you've played Star Rail, you already understand how it works. It's not difficult. Where it gets difficult is taking Star Rail and transferring that to a TTRPG, because a TTRPG has two things that Star Rail doesn't have that are insane. And that is just movement, and the idea that attacks and abilities can be more or less effective, i.e. hit or miss. Travel, if it's a TTRPG, we're going to be doing some traveling. So there's going to be basic travel for when you're on the ground, maybe with vehicles, and the big one I'm very interested in, more than I thought I would be. I'm not a big sci-fi person, but here I am. I really like the idea of a system based around space travel and how shit works in space. And then what do we have? Next up is the elements and the break. Now, elements pretty easy. You could literally just have a player pick their element at the very start, and it would be a lot like Skyrim, not Skyrim. It would be a lot like maybe damage resistance or something more along the lines of what the heck's the one I'm thinking of? Final Fantasy 14, when you pick like which one of what am I thinking of here? It's like a game where you pick like your background choice. What star were you born under? What year were you born? And they have no mechanical value whatsoever, but it's just kind of like this cool background lore. I think Final Fantasy 14 used to have something like that. And then Oblivion does it, but it actually is helpful to your stats and your abilities, and it can almost drastically change your entire playthrough. Then we have, what else? So the element could be something you just pick, and then that would give you resistances, vulnerabilities, bonuses, or it might tie into like a break mechanic, which I saw a lot of people's thoughts of what to do for break, and I also saw a lot of people's very weird ideas of what to do for break. We also might not have break at all, or we might not just have break, but maybe even players can be broken. That would be cool. As for skill points, no. It does not work the same way in a TTRPG as it does in Star Rail. In Star Rail, you have a 100% full control of your entire team. Even if you have a character that attacks out of turn on their own, you still know how the skill point system's gonna work. It's not hard. And there's very few characters that actually mess with that system outside of giving you one back, right? The big crazy examples being like Sparkle, or who the hell's the other one? In Bibbidi Bobbidi Lune, who can stack points to get like a super AoE attack. So you could not use skill points in a TTRPG the same way that you could Star Rail. It just wouldn't work. You would want to use your awesome cool skill, but the guys whose turn it is before you says, no, fuck you, I'm using my skill. I'm not basic attacking to get a skill point, so you can use your... It would be so bad. So somebody else brought up, I saw in a comment, that they thought that this would work very good in Pathfinder 2e. Now, I love the concept of Pathfinder 2e. It's great. It's amazing. It's awesome. Pathfinder in general, it's a bit too crunchy for my likeness. I'd rather just play instead of just having to debate why I only did X amount of damage because my character was facing north and only moved 10 feet while his foot was in a pile of mud and the other foot was on solid stone. And I had to do the math calculation of all that, and the other characters were 10 feet away from me and the enemy was looking to the left while I was looking to the right. I don't need to calculate all that when I just want to fucking swing at you with a hammer. But Pathfinder's action point system I really like. So I think we could literally use action points in this game, but just sugarcoat them, reskin them, rename them, put a fancy coat of paint on it, and just call it skill points for the sake of matching the Star Rail theme. Now, all of this subject to change, all of it subject to staying, all of it subject to being completely deleted, subject to blah, 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 whatever. None of that matters if we don't figure out the key part of this video, which I now am hilariously telling you 10 minutes in. How the hell are we gonna play this game? Primarily, what tools are we using to play and how do we do it? I'm looking at you, dice. Dice, 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 dice. Cards I don't like. I love shiny math rocks. I love them. I love them. And now, if other people buy shiny math rocks, they can, stats, they can get into the terrible, terrible hobby of buying dice like everybody else and just throw your money away, which all of you should be used to anyway because you're filthy gacha players. You're lovely fans. So, dice. We got options, right? We can do D20. We can do D100. We can do 2D10. We can do 2D6. I don't know how to spell, apparently. We can do dice pool. We could do, a dice ladder? Yeah, I like dice ladders if you're familiar with like Savage Worlds. So, and then with D20, you have like over under and shit like that. You have like the over under options, like. There's a lot you can do with this, so. Let's go down here with it. So now, I think for the sake of ease, here's a big thing about dice, right? A lot of people have a lot of their own opinions on how to do or what to do or how to handle or which is preferred when it comes to dice systems in TTRPGs. Oh, this one's better, that one's easier, yada, 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 yada. There's every reason in the world why, right? So D20, you have like, you know, D&D, Pathfinder. You roll a D20, you add a bonus, you roll over a target number. You have something like Dragonbane. You roll a D20, you add your target number, you add a modifier, you roll under a target number. D100 Cthulhu, a lot of people love it because it just sets up that 100% math comparison very easily. I personally really don't like D100. I've played Call of Cthulhu very few times, and every time I played, it just seemed like you never succeeded ever. Like I had rolls where I had like an 80+% chance to succeed, and it just never seemed to happen. And I'd love to say I was just unlucky that day, but it's every time I've played Call of Cthulhu, so it doesn't feel good, which is something we're gonna get into. 2D10, this is another way to calculate math via trying to tie into D20. It creates more of a bell curve, adds more of an average, so it makes it when you roll really bad or really high, rarer and much more important. As compared to D&D with the D20 system, where everything is an equal percent chance and it's basically chaos, which is, a lot of people hate that about the game, but that's kind of the point of the game. It's like a built-in portion of its charm. That's part of it. You're accepting that the barbarian can roll a nat 20 on his intelligence check and suddenly learn arithmetic. You're accepting that the professional acrobatic rogue can roll a nat 1 on his hardcore parkour trick and fall on his face and trigger the entire combat. 2d6, very similar to 2d10, crunch numbers. Dice pool. Where's my Warhammer aficionados? Where are you at? Where's my alien players? There's a impossibly massive amount of games that use dice pools. I like dice pools. What I don't like about dice pools is when it's too many dice. And don't get me wrong, I love shoveling my hands into a barrel of mini D6s and rolling 60 D6 when all of my pink horrors of Tzeentch, who are of the Pyromancer cult, have to blow the Emperor's angels away. But then when he has to roll his after I count out of how many of my 20 to 60 dice are successful, and then I have to see how much hit, and then I roll damage, and then I have to see how much I don't damage, and then either someone's dead or we ran out of dice. It gets a bit wonky if there's too many dice, and I don't want people to run around with literal bags and barrels and buckets of dice. So dice pool might be on the sideline, but it's higher up than probably the D100 is for me. Dice ladder, Savage Worlds, and a couple other things. Dice ladders are cool where your stats are kind of more represented by a dice rather than a number. So if you're really bad at something, your strength is like a D4. If you're really good at something, your intelligence is a D12. I like dice ladders because it means you have to buy different kinds of dice, and everyone gets to enjoy all the different kinds of shiny math rocks, very similar to a D20. And when you get better at something, your D4 upgrades to a D6, so your average roll increases. It's very simple to see and somewhat feel the improvement in your character. I like it. It gets confusing when someone's new to a TTRPG and you have to tell them, like, okay, roll your athletics. And then they say, okay, my strength's a D8, my athletics is a D6. What the heck is a D6? And then you look at them and go, that's the normal ass cube dice. And they're like, oh, it's happened. It's funny. For the sake of ease, for now, I'm gonna go with the dice system that I am the most familiar with, which is gonna be D20. So, and I have changed the sensitivity of my mouse somehow. And yeah, again, I said this in the last video, but if you are someone who is a grammar, man, that was close. I almost said Nazi. If you're someone who is a grammar aficionado, you might not want to watch this video at all, which is hilarious because you're already 20 minutes in. But let's see here. So let's go with a D20 for now. So I'm thinking definitely it's a roll 1d20, add modifiers, Sunbract, roll over target number. Very easy stuff. Determine. Success or failure. But yeah, these are raw notes. These are just purely out of my head. I don't care about spelling and grammar when it comes to these. So if you do, I'm so sorry. By I'm so sorry, I mean I'm not. I warned you. I won't be going back and correcting and making proper formatting. This is purely just for funsies. Now, if this ever actually turns into something that I'm handing out to people that is more than my Discord, then I'll probably go back in and format, or I'll get someone who's actually good at that shit to do it for me. So I think very easy. D20, roll, add or subtract a modifier, roll over target number, determine success or failure. Easy peasy. Now, to my previous point, what I had said before, a lot of people are very persnickety when it comes to dice systems. Some people say it doesn't matter. Some people say it's the single most integral part. Now, I agree with both sides of it. You just need something to have a random determiner, or at least a like pseudo-random determiner of success and failure to drive the story forward in a way that players aren't suspecting, because it adds drama to the video. Or not to the video, to the game. What makes games better when they're about, you know, progressing and character development and fighting enemies and getting the MacGuffin and doing the thing and finding the shiny? Drama, suspense, the unknown. It makes things better. Just does. It just works. But, so I think there definitely needs to be a bit of a randomness in there. And Star Rail has all those funny little weird quirky moments on top of the holy crap, that worked kind of thing. So I think just the basic D20 is a very good mix with that. Now, there are people who are going to be able to argue otherwise. There are people who are going to be able to argue for other dice systems being better. That's great. Good on you. If you have actual constructive criticism, I would gladly take it in the form of a comment. If you're just going to say something stupid that has no bearing on anything, please keep it to yourself. And again, for the people who want to talk about lore and story, no. No. Time and place. The time is not now and the place is not here. But you'll do it anyway, so I can't wait to read them.